Hello there. So I am willing to pay two individuals, two or three, at least to start out with, probably two, $100 a month each for their help with creating Roblox stuff. Specifically, I'm looking for a project manager is one of the roles, and the second one is probably a programmer. But if you're a builder, I'm also potentially interested, but I definitely need a programmer. Or program somebody who can do both. Okay. Okay, and so I'm going to describe what I'm looking for specifically from those roles later. First, I want to talk about my general thinking, that sort of applies to both of these. Okay. And yes, I just made this video and then I ran out of space on my hard drive, and so this is my second go at it. You always lose a little bit of the momentum when it's, at least I do. The first time is better, and then I had everything in my head that I wanted to say. Now I gotta start again. Okay. So, well, I'm just gonna say what comes to mind. So, yes. So, the first requirement is that it is legal. You're of an age that it is legal for you to work wherever you are. That's the first requirement. I don't make the laws. Those are the rules. Now, I don't like the idea of restricting based on age. So as long as it's legal, I'm pretty open to ideas. Yeah, but I mean, there's a certain level of maturity that's going to be necessary. So yeah. And if you're, I don't know. I'm used to Japan. I think there are people working from the age of 15. I think. I don't know if maybe someone who's 14 can work a part-time job. I'm not sure. But 15. I'll be honest, that's a bit young, but I'm not gonna. I'm not closed to the idea completely. Okay, I just don't like the idea of restricting too much, because sometimes you get a young genius or something, and I don't think it's fair just to say no because they're 15 or something. However, obviously it must be legal in your area, and so $100 a month is not a lot, and so obviously if you're already disgusted by the idea, I mean, first of all, I haven't said how much work, right? So the first thing I want you to do is to send me a one-page document. It can just be a message on Discord, telling me, pitching yourself to me. Now, okay, 1 to 4 pages, ish, I don't know how many words that is, at least 500, I don't know exactly, but, enough. More is not necessarily better, just tell me what you can offer. What your skills are, what your experience is, and what you have in mind. For $100 a month, how much you would be willing to put in, okay? And let's see. So yeah, just put yourself in my shoes. Try to give me an idea of what I would be getting. I care about the results, right? What I would be getting for the money per month. Okay. Now, in the future, it'd be nice to be successful or whatever, but I can't really justify paying more until I'm making a decent profit, which I think is rather far off, to be honest. So don't expect that that's going to be increasing right away or anything. And in fact, don't really expect anything. That's that's like a secret to happiness in life. Don't expect anything. Okay, that's just setting yourself up for disappointment. I could change my mind at any time, and there's a fair chance I will. I might change my mind tomorrow. Actually, this was a bad idea, I can stop at any time. Now, you can also stop at any time as well. That said, of course, if I said I'm going to pay you, I will pay you. And yeah, so we need to figure out some kind of payment method. I'm thinking PayPal. And so, yeah. Also, in the document that you send me, let me know, like, at least the state or whatever that you live in. Don't give me your address or anything. I don't need personal details. Just, but I need to know state or country, prefecture, whatever. That information so I can check the laws of that area. Things are a little complicated when you do things on the internet, right? Because what really happens is the laws where you are and the laws where I am would apply in different ways. So it's a bit of a complicated mess, to be honest. But, okay. Then, before I get into what the specific positions are about, I'd like to talk about sort of my general philosophy and thinking towards work in general. And this is mainly, I've been on both sides of many different interactions. Employer, employee, all that. More on the employee side, I would say. And let's see. So, of course, there are laws in pretty much everywhere in the world protecting employees in various ways, and that's good. Like, especially if I tell you I'm going to pay you at the end of the month or whatever, and if I didn't, that kind of law is very important. Also, I'm thinking. Yeah, anyway, we need to test the payment in the beginning, at least with $1 or something, to make sure. I want to make sure that I'm able to pay you before we get going. Anyway, so those kinds of protections are important. Those employee protections. However, basically, to put it bluntly, I think when you make an agreement with another human being, in general, you don't gain all kinds of new rights that you didn't have before just because you agreed on something. Like if I ask somebody, a coworker or something, if I ask someone to drive me to the airport because my car is broken down, and then I said, well, I'll pay you, $50 because it's gasoline and also just for your trouble, hey, $50. Like, it's just a human-to-human interaction. We make an agreement. The important thing is that you do, assuming you didn't have some kind of crazy emergency or something, you stick to what you agreed upon and all that. That's the important thing. We don't get weird new rights because of these little agreements in the way I think of things, okay? Like, you make an agreement with someone and it doesn't mean that they have to suddenly pay for your dental expenses or something crazy like that. And anyway, we're talking about like a small freelance kind of thing here. So none of that applies. Okay. And it's just an agreement between two people. Don't have expectations. Basically, I might decide to stop at any moment and no questions asked. That's my right, and that's your right too. You can stop at any moment. I mean, you have the right to stop. You are in control of yourself. Okay. I think that's important. So let's be mature and not get all upset. Nothing lasts forever, okay? Let's not get upset if one of us decides to stop the arrangement, okay? All right, and so I think that's enough of the general philosophy. So after the initial first page, I'm not sure how many people I'll get. Maybe nobody wants to do this. Now, personally, I would have loved to have an opportunity to get paid, even though it's not a lot, but to get paid to do programming when I was young. You get to build your skills. I've been in that position many times. I've taken on freelance work, which in terms of the hours involved and the money, if you only looked at the money and the hours, it's not worth it, but you have to also factor that you sort of build a portfolio of stuff you've done, and also so you can leverage that later. You get experience and you learn things. And I had that with programming multiple times. I also did that with translation in the very beginning. First several months, I was not making good money at all, but thankfully they were paying me based on the work that I did, not on the hours, because if they paid me based on the hours, it would have been totally illegal. I was making way less than minimum wage when I started out translating, but you know, I became, over a period of a few months, I became many times more productive. So, you know, that's my personal experience. I like the idea of apprenticeship, paid internships, unpaid internships, you know, building skills. I'm all about that. So, you know, I spend a lot of time studying things nobody pays me for. So that's my thinking on that. All right. So what are these positions about? Okay. So which one should I talk about first? Let's see. I mean, programming is fairly straightforward, though. I'll probably have some stuff to say about that. Project management is really important in my view. And this is from experience in the beginning. So I'll just kind of partly tell my story of why I think, you know, what my experiences are that led me to think the way I do about project management. Yeah, I'll just tell that little story. So I started out programming, let's see, more than 10 years ago. And my idea at the time was to start up a company as quickly as possible. But I was thinking within 1 or 2 years after really seriously studying programming, I wanted to start a company. I wanted to get other people to do programming, and I would, you know, start a business. But I wanted to know about it, right, enough to look into the details a bit. That was my plan. Now, I actually, after about a year or year and a half of studying programming, I hired an intern. Hold on one second. I forget how much I paid them. It was much more. It was like 20 hours a week, and it was, I think it was more than $1,000 a month. I forget. Anyway. So we did that, but the thing that I learned was that when you add people to a project, it doesn't make things simpler. It actually makes things much more complicated. If you go from working by yourself on something to working with 2 people on something, many things become much, much more complicated. Now, if you're talking about a game like this where, see, everything is sort of, how can I say? Like, you can look around in this world and find all kinds of things. See, in a general programming project, you can't necessarily, like, look around. It's just a bunch of code. And things can get very complicated when you add people. So this is actually famous in the world of programming. It's called the Mythical Man Hour, and there was a famous book written on the subject. I think the book was called Mythical Man Hour. And it was about companies that would, you know, they'd be behind schedule on a project, so they would throw money at it. They'd spend a lot of money and hire more people, and the project would slow down even more sometimes. In general, that's what would happen. So, you know, you have 5 people in a little team, and then you increase it to 8. Suddenly, things are more complicated. So that's where project management becomes super important. Because actually, even just going from 1 person to 2 people, everything's a lot more complicated already. I mean, making a game is already complicated. And the bigger the team gets, actually, the more complicated the project as a whole becomes more complicated as you add more people. So it doesn't like simplify. Okay, so in general, in project management, you generally have at least 3 sort of roles. You have the engineer, you have the project manager, and then the project owner. Okay, so I'm the project owner. That's the idea. And one of the main things that the project manager can offer is to save me a lot of time. So now I have certain... So I'd like you to, if you're interested in both positions, so one person cannot fill both positions. However, so pick one that you're interested in, and then in your document that you send me, or just send me a message or whatever. Basically, just mention at the end that you're also interested in the other position, but focus your pitch on only one position, please. And then if it's a no for that, then we can talk about the other position if you're interested. Okay. Optionally, okay? I don't have any obligation. All right? If I... You know, in my experience, I have a lot of years of experience. If something smells slightly off, that I just have a weird feeling or a bad feeling, in general, I'm out. That's it. That's just a general good rule of thumb. That's just the way it goes. So, you know, I might be able to tell from what you sent me that it's not gonna be a match. Okay, nothing to take personally. Okay, but all right. So the project manager. So you know, project management is it's a whole career path. It's a whole like a industry almost. It's a big area with lots of people, lots of books written on the subject and all that stuff. It's very deep. However, and the most famous system is called Scrum. So let's write that somewhere. Scrum. Yeah, that's fine. SCRUM. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm familiar with, but we don't need a big organized system, okay? I'll explain. You know, so with a programmer, I need someone who has some experience. It doesn't have to be professional experience, but you need to be able to show me scripts that you've written. You need to generally be competent in writing luau, I guess it's called. Yeah, you need to be generally competent. You don't need to be a master, and please don't act like you're something that you're not. Please be honest. Okay, it's only going to backfire if you're not, because I'm going to be able to, first of all, talk to you and figure out what you know and what you don't know, and possibly, you know, test you. Okay, and AI is not going to be able to, is not smart enough to be able to save you if you're lying about stuff. Also, I don't expect people to be a master of everything. There's actually very complicated, nuanced details that I could ask you about. So if you're, you know, pretending to be a great master of programming when you're really not, I can ask you about these complicated, nuanced details. And I think if you're not a real master, you're going to have trouble. So don't lie about it. Okay, that's just obvious. I would rather work with somebody who does not have many skills, but who's willing to learn, who has that passion and desire to learn, than someone who's very skilled but isn't really willing to learn. And also, I think somebody who's a master of programming might not want to do this work for $100 a month, and they or they're just not willing to put in much time. You know, who knows? But yeah, so I'm willing to work with people who have a skill set that's still in development, let's say, but who are eager to learn and improve and do things. Okay. Now the project management. That's the programming side. The project management side, you don't need to have any experience at all. You just have to... So the thing about project management is that you're not writing code or making 3D models. You're not looking into the details precisely. You have to be able to meet with the engineer or engineers and be a good listener, okay? Because one of the techniques for solving problems is talking about it. Actually, this is just generally true for humans altogether in general, right? People go to therapy and they just talk about things and they try to solve problems like that. But for engineers as well, programmers, whatever you want to call it, talking to someone can help them solve their problems. So the real requirement for a project manager is that you're willing to listen to people, that you have that kind of patience. That's the most important thing. And you don't mind, that what you're doing is mainly just interacting with people. Now, personally, and it's less hours of work than the engineering role. The engineering role, I'm looking for more hours. So, in terms of pay per hour, you're getting a better deal with the project management role. However, if it were me, I would rather be the engineer because you get to build things and you get to improve all these skills and that kind of thing. So, that's my personal view. I've considered working as a project manager before. Maybe I'll do it someday, but I've kind of thought I'd rather be the engineer, even if project management can be good money. Okay. So, what was I going to say next? Project management. Yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. You have to do some meetings. So let me know kind of how many hours you're willing to put in per week, per month for that pay, $100 US per month. Also, your English skill matters. So, if you're not a native speaker, then tell me about your English skill. Okay, it does matter. I do care. Now it's not totally impossible that I could work with people in other languages. I speak French. I can generally understand Spanish. I understand and speak Japanese quite well. I have a basic level in Chinese, can understand a lot. So other languages are not impossible, but yeah, like I said, that's something that's going to be important. If you're not a native English speaker, then we need to be talking about that side of things as well. Okay. I think that's mainly it. So yeah, project manager is about sort of having an overall, making sure things work smoothly overall, kind of having sort of deadlines. Hold on, I gotta sip my coffee, hold on. Basically, I mean, it's kind of up to the engineer, so we could think in terms of like a certain number of hours per month, or I don't know, we can adapt to the engineer, but we might want to have deadlines, right? That's how things usually work. Now, sometimes things are more complicated than we thought, and it actually takes a lot longer to do something than we thought. But there should be a good reason for that. So figuring all that out is the project manager's job. That's part of it, is figuring out if we should have certain deadlines, how much work is involved. Is the engineer doing enough work? Are they slacking off? That's their job to think about. And part of their job is to minimize the amount of work and time that I have to put in as a project owner. So we might So various things might happen. One, we might meet the three of us most of the time, or maybe I meet once a week with the project manager and only occasionally with the engineer. Or even once we get things going, maybe I'm even just once a month with the project manager. Or maybe I just like occasionally check in and see how things are going. Just by, not even like a voice meeting, just playing the game and looking at analytics, that kind of stuff. Now, of course, I have a small budget for advertising, sponsoring the experiences and all that stuff as well. Okay? So that's going into my calculations here with this stuff. And anything else I wanted to say? So yeah, project manager is also about saving my time as much as possible. Okay, so keep that in mind. So it's good to be a good listener, but you're also trying to see like the story, what's going on with the engineer might be very complicated. There's a lot of complicated stuff going on. Part of your job is to sort of boil that down. Maybe, if you can send me a message where you describe it in 2 sentences or something, that's great. Not like pages and pages of notes or something. You know what I mean? Like just, but I'm not saying like don't talk or something like that. No. Just, there's a balance to be had. That's part of the job, is just try to put yourself in my shoes and think about how you can save me time. That's the idea. Okay, and that's the thing. I mean, if you have 3 people working on something, and I'm not going to be absent, right? I'm going to also be contributing. And if you have 3 people working on something, a lot more can be done. I mean, like, this is my latest stuff I've been working on, and I think it looks fun, but I think this lacks polish a lot, right? Like somebody who's an experienced builder, and I'm not like an artistic person. I'm a mathematical programming person. I've never really been a good art person, and but I can tell like this really, to me this is fun and cool, but it definitely lacks polish in a major way, right? So I think somebody who's passionate about building would look at this and just be confused and horrified or something, So, okay. Another thing I'll say, just because a lot of the people thinking of applying might be young, just a little life tip, that one of the best ways to get someone to dislike you is to criticize them a lot. So you have to be really delicate with when you criticize people. And there's actually, there's this book, which it sounds like a really lame book, but it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a sort of a classic of, I guess, I don't know, people skills or something like that. But it was written a long time ago when I guess that title didn't sound lame. But anyway, so Warren Buffett, who is one of the richest people in the world, one of the most successful people in history, he sort of swears by the work of Dale Carnegie. That's the author. And Dale Carnegie used to have like classes or seminars, and Warren Buffett says, well, that's where he learned how to interact, how to work with people. And that was the biggest key to his success, he says. So when I found out that, because I was interested in economics and stuff, and so I learned about Warren Buffett, and when I found out that, I had heard of the book before, but then I decided to read it. And the whole, like, the first quarter of the book is all about, like, how you should never criticize people. Now, that's not entirely true, especially in a work environment. There's a time and there's a balance to be had, okay? There's a time and place for criticism. We should all try to have a thick skin and handle criticism. But the reality is we're all sensitive in different ways. And I'm just saying, if you want somebody to dislike you, just start criticizing everything they do. Like, it's really easy. And then, like, the second thing you can do is give them lots of advice that they didn't ask for. That's the second best way. And the third best way is to start teaching people stuff when they didn't ask, which is just sort of like going on long rants, which is basically what my videos are. But anyway, it's optional to watch it, right? But one of the things I notice just interacting with people is that some people, when you have something to, like let's say there's a deep and interesting topic that comes up, and you sort of explain something for a couple minutes, there's some people who will be really interested. Oh, okay, I see. And they ask questions and they'll want to learn more, right? And there's other people who, as soon as you sound like you're teaching them something, the instant that happens, they're just like rolling their eyes and they're just like, oh my God, will this person just shut up? I'd say like maybe more than half of people are like that. They don't want to listen to what you have to say. They just want to say what they want to say. But people just have different interests, so, you know. We all have things that we would not really care to listen about. So that's just my general advice. If you want to thrive in life, think carefully about when you criticize people. In a work environment, it's necessary. Okay, it's absolutely necessary. But think about it. Start thinking about it. Okay, and then yeah. I mean, second thing, advice. I mean, advice can be a type of criticism, right? So you have to be careful giving people advice, especially if they didn't ask for it. And then third, teaching someone something, not really criticism, but it could be construed that way. Like if they're, I'm just saying it's all kind of related. Okay, so just general advice there. So that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions. Ask me questions on Discord, I guess. So I'm in general kind of a person who is hard to get a hold of because I tend to spend long periods of time thinking about math or working on something. And even my family, it's very hard for them to get a hold of me in general. So, but I will be checking, okay, my Discord. Be patient. I might check only a couple times a week or something. I don't know exactly, but I will check. I'll put a link in the description to Discord and find me there. And let's see, ask me questions. Send me about a page, 1 to 4 pages, whatever. Pitching yourself. If I might want to hear more, you know, and we'll go from there. That's the idea. Let me know what you think. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Oh, not there. Oh. Oh, good, I was recording. Okay, goodbye.